The boxing and MMA worlds have been crossing paths with each other with increasing frequency. In the minds of many MMA athletes, it isn't much of a skill gap to cross in order to jump into the deep end of boxing ranks. Very few have actually had much success at it, but they have caused enough of a splash to keep this trend going. Even if the ring mechanics differ quite a bit, the fight mechanics, characters, and stories of many of the fighters have far more similarities. If you're a fan of either sport and was wondering who the counterpart of your favorite fighter is, we're here to help with that. The three criteria we're going to be basing this on will be character, style, and story. Character will be determined by whether they're generally quite respectful, very boastful, what they value as fighters, and what kind of personality they have on the mic. Style is a tricky one to get right since the fights have very different rules, so we'll be simplifying it into whether they're more aggressive, defensively responsible, technically proficient, or powerhouses. Story is going to refer mainly to the story of their career, such as whether they are multiple weight class champions, young prodigies, came into the sport late, or have any other remarkable details about their careers so far. Let's jump straight into it with the most glaringly similar pair, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. The two had shared a ring in what sparked the beginning of the crossover world. This fight was made very much under the premise that they are each other's counterparts from the sport. Their characters both revolve around being the biggest moneymakers of their time in the sport and are very boastful of their skills and talk down to their opponents. Their styles are where the comparison lacks the most, as McGregor boasts an extremely high KO ratio with his aggressive style and Mayweather has a nearly 50% decision win record. The one consistency in their style is that they get results. While McGregor isn't unbeaten like Mayweather, a near 80% win record is almost as good in the MMA world. When it comes to story, both these men dominated very similar weight classes. As Mayweather was at super featherweight for 27 fights, had 8 fights around lightweight and super lightweight, then finished his career with 15 fights at welterweight. McGregor moved around featherweight and lightweight for the first 15 fights before being more consistent at featherweight for the next 7 fights, then moved around the 2 weights for the remainder of his career, also having 2 welterweight fights against Donald Cerrone and Nate Diaz. The two are remarkably similar, and that is part of what made the bout between them as massive as it was. The second pair is one that made the story criteria stick quite a lot more since recent events. Terence Bud Crawford, boxing's current pound for pound number 2, and UFC's current pound for pound number 6, Dricus du Plessis, have each proved the doubters very wrong over the last 2 years. Since 2022, Crawford has taken care of 3 ex-world champions in David Avanesyan, Errol Spence, and Israil Madrimov. In that time, DDP has also dealt with 3 former world champs in Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, and Israel Adesanya. Their characters are also very similar in that they are extremely professional and don't go out of their way to disrespect any opponents unless it is warranted, in which case they are very good at dishing it back. Stylistically, they are both very aggressive, even though Crawford's is more polished and accurate. If you're still not convinced of their similarities, they both had their doubters quite recently, with many saying Dricus would not be skilled enough to defeat Sean Strickland or Adesanya, and Crawford is thought by many to not be strong enough to finish Errol Spence. Both have proved their doubters wrong, and both have now challenged the most elite names in the sport, even though their opposition will be significantly bigger than them. With that, we segue into those 2 much larger opponents, who coincidentally are each other's counterparts. Canelo Alvarez and Alex Pereira are 2 names at the top of their respective sports and known as hard-hitting, stoic and accurate juggernauts. Their characters are quite similar as they don't trash talk at all, but do retaliate when they are talked down to. Their opponents as of 2021 have been world class, and each of them have only one blemish on their record since that time to incredibly skilled opposition. Their lack of mic skills come from their lack of English proficiency, though Canelo has overcome this and become a lot more vocal recently. As close as this comparison is, our next one may give it a run for its money. The man largely named the face of UFC over the longest time would be John Bones Jones. Known to be the most proficient and prolific fighter of the large athletes, only one boxer stands out as a counterpart to that, and he is the Gypsy King Tyson Fury. Jones and Fury are both devastating on the mic and in the ring. Their characters are hated by many who despise the bad guy image, as they have never been afraid to take mental warfare very seriously. Jones's mental game is a lot more stoic and controlled, while Fury's is a lot more explosive. They are also very technically gifted and are known as awkward and strong fighters to be in the ring with. They have both also been at the peak of the heavyweight division and even the sport. Moreover, Fury and Jones were so closely compared that the two of them even had a small exchange that briefly hinted at the two of them getting into a fight, even though that didn't really get too far. Now, we can't end this video without talking about arguably the greatest combat sport athlete of the century in terms of resume. Alexander Usyk has done everything there is to do in boxing. He's the current pound for pound number one in the sport, and it is very fitting to look at a comparison between him and UFC's pound for pound champ, Islam Makhachev. Makhachev and Usyk are both very skilled technicians who come from backgrounds of extreme discipline with not much time in the spotlight for controversy or trash talk. Both of them are also consummate professionals who are generally ready to speak openly about their opponents and other big fights. Although Makhachev has a long way to go to have his achievements be compared to Usyk's, their fan bases most likely have a lot in common. If there are any other outstanding comparisons you can think of, be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like on the videos. It helps us tremendously. Until next time.